Hey everyone, my name is Lisa and you are watching the Stop, Drop, and Knit podcast, episode 67. I've got kind of a shorter episode for you guys today because for once in my life, I've been monogamous with my knitting. I don't know about y'all, but I tend to just knit a little bit on one project here, switch to another project. And if you guys watched my whip video, my lingering whips, what's in these project bags video, you'll know that I have a bunch of whips left over from last year that still need to be finished. So I'm always working on a variety of projects. This week though, I have been knitting monogamously, and that is because I have been working on finishing up a test knit. So more about that later. Whenever I say it's going to be a shorter episode, it ends up being just as long as all of my other ones. But I definitely have less projects to show you all today. We're going to talk about what I'm wearing today. I'm going to show you the progress that I have made on my really big test knit. And I have a half finished object, and I did do a little bit of spinning this week. Yeah, I do not have any acquisitions, and I have a feeling that the acquisitions section this year is going to be pretty infrequent. We have some plans to get our budget under control and pay down some debt this year. So that does not mean that I will never be buying yarn. I have tentative plans to finally visit the Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival again in May. So I'm not 100% sure that I'm committed to going yet. We have to check our schedules as we get a little bit closer because things tend to pop up here and there. But as of now, we have tentative plans to go on that Saturday. It's only about a 4.5-hour drive for us from here. So I'll definitely, if I do make it to that festival, I definitely plan on purchasing some things then. But I have a very healthy stash of yarn, and it's full of projects that I've not yet gotten around to knitting. So I have plenty to keep me busy, and I have some financial goals that, sometimes you can freely spend a lot of money, and other times you need to rein it in a little bit. And yarn purchases are definitely an area where I will be reining it in this year significantly. But instead of the acquisitions section, I thought it would be fun to have a new section called Things That I Have Been Enjoying. So yeah, I am gonna mostly keep that knitting related. I think all knitting related as much as possible. I mean, maybe every once in a while something non-knitting related will slip in there, but I just thought that would be a nice way to change things up a little bit, since that segment is going to pretty much mostly be going away. So yeah, all right, I think I'm ready to tell you guys all about what I'm wearing today. So today I am wearing an oldie but a goodie. I knit this shawl. I feel like I always say about 4 years ago, but I've been podcasting now for 2 years, so probably about 6 years ago. It's been a while. Many years ago, my husband gifted me a sweater quantity of yarn from Long Island Yarn and Farm, and we often purchase from Tabitha, but her yarn is luxury yarn, so to have a lot of fiber in one colorway to work with, that was a real treat that he gifted me that year. So it wasn't quite enough for a sweater because, I mean, he got me 10 skeins of this yarn, but it was bulky. I think this is a bulky weight. actually not worsted. I'm pretty sure it's bulky. And so this is a pattern that Tabitha offers. I will stand up and show you guys. It is just, I'll take it off too so that you guys can see. It is just very simple, and it's actually just a rectangle with 2 holes in it. So I will show you that. And I've never blocked it. So I'm going to actually do that after this podcast today. I'm committed. And I'll talk more about that. But see, it's not going to all fit on the screen, but there's just like these 2 holes in this really big, long rectangle. And the ribbing pattern, I'll just get in close here. This is actually, it's kind of funny. It's supposed to be a twisted rib, but, but at that time, when I made this, I didn't realize that I was knitting all the time through the back loop, so my regular knit stitches were twisted. So when I went to do the twisted ribbing pattern, I knit through the front loop instead, which is the regular way that you're supposed to knit. So this did not turn out twisted rib. If I had just done it in the way that I had been used to knitting at the time, it would have been fine. It doesn't matter for this pattern. I mean, it is just a ribbed rectangle with 2 holes. So, I mean, it's not a big deal, but I just think it's pretty funny that when I made this, I was not like a new knitter, but I was not as prolific a knitter in terms of the amount of projects I would put out in a given time was much less. I was knitting. It was very on and off back then. Yeah, so I was not consistent. I was not a consistent knitter, but I've been a knitter since I was like 25 years old, 24, 25 years old. So for 20 years now, I have been knitting. So I wasn't a new knitter, but I was not consistent knitter at that time. So I, at that time, was just knitting the way that my mom had taught me to knit, and she taught me through the back loop. So that was just what I did. And I eventually figured it out on my own and corrected it. But yeah, so this is not the twisted rib that it was supposed to be, but it's just a regular rib, and I think it looks great. So I have not worn this on the podcast in quite a while. I think maybe I wore it at some point last fall. And the reason that I stopped wearing it is because at that time, now most of the comments that I receive from all of you guys are very positive and very kind and gentle and just pleasant. I absolutely love receiving comments from you guys. But I received this one comment the last time I wore this, and I don't think it was a regular viewer, and even if it was, it's fine, but it was very just short and to the point, and all this person said was, you really need to pill that thing. Something along those lines. And it was just like, that was like kind of all that they said. And, you know, they were absolutely right. I had never depilled it, or depill that thing. That's what I meant to say. I had never depilled it, and I was like, you know, I own a Gleener. It's just something that I throw on all the time in the house. I wear it out, but I also mostly just wear it at home. And because it's such a warm, I mean, this is like, I want to say half llama, half sheep. It's like very, very warm. So, and it's an amazing layer, and it's easy to just throw on and throw off really, really quickly. So I don't know, you know how sometimes comments just stick with you, and I wasn't upset about it, because you know, when you put yourself out there on the internet, on YouTube, you can expect that, you know, you're gonna run across comments and people sometimes that are just, you know, it just is what it is. It's not always going to be positive and, you know, uplifting and, you know, it's not always going to be positive. You're gonna run into constructive criticism is what I hope that people will do. So I am a teacher. I'm actually a college professor. I'm a flutist. I teach flute, but I've taught flute to people of all ages. So I've started kids as young as 7 on the flute, and I've taught like all the way up to adults. And so as a teacher, I have learned that there's like a very fine line that you have to like walk when you want to deliver criticism to somebody. And so, you know, I'm not upset. I wasn't upset, but it stuck with me, and I didn't wear this on the podcast because I was like, oh my gosh, I can't wear this on the podcast again until I get my Gleener out and depill it, right? So in that way, it affected me because it made me self-conscious about wearing this outside of the house and on camera on my podcast. And so as a teacher, you know, and it depends on your audience. It depends on the person. For me, it depends on the student, the manner in which I deliver criticism. If I have a very advanced student who is studying at the college with me, I will be more blunt with my criticism often because we're working toward a specific goal. That person has come to me specifically for criticism, as a means to improve and get better more quickly. So I don't need to sugarcoat everything for that type of student. But when I work with younger kids, you know, you want to build up their confidence. And I'm not saying I need my confidence built up, but just as like, I've found that the general best practice to deliver criticism is kind of like the sandwich method, right? So you start with saying something friendly or nice or complimentary. That was really great. I can tell you put a lot of work into that garment, right? Would be an example. And then deliver the criticism in the middle, like, I noticed that it's pilling quite a bit and could probably benefit from a good session with your Gleener, right? Something like that. And then end with something nice. Really enjoyed the podcast today. Thanks for sharing. Simple, right? Like, I'm not saying you guys have to like sandwich your comments to me, but if you're gonna offer somebody something critical, try not to just be so blunt, because you're delivering on the internet to somebody that you most likely don't know and have never met, and different people react differently to criticism. And you know, it kind of goes back to like, if you can't say something nice, just don't say anything at all, right? So, and that doesn't mean that you guys can't give me criticism. I am all about receiving criticism. I want to improve. I want to know what you guys notice. But all this to say that that comment has stuck with me for a year, and I didn't wear this thing for a full year. And this is something that I love. It is one of my most favorite pieces that I have made because it's so practical. I know the animals that the fiber came from because Tabitha's farm is very local to me, and I've been there many times. And you know, it's just gorgeous. So all that to say that because I'm podcasting today, I was really self-conscious about that. So I got my Gleener out, and you know, of course the person was right. Like, there is so many pills. So I've got this really big pile of fluff that came off my sweater, and I'm gonna put this in a little bag and save it to stuff my next stuffed animal that I work on, to just use it as part of the stuffing, because it's just, you know, I can recycle this. I don't have to just throw it away. I knit stuffed animals often, and so I'm just gonna stick this in the next stuffed animal that I make. So yeah, I just had a good like 15-20 minute session with my Gleener right before I started this podcast, because I was self-conscious about how pilled it was. So just in case you guys aren't familiar with the Gleener, this tool is amazing. I got it for Christmas one year. I requested it from my husband. I think it's like maybe around $15, and we got it at Target at the time. I don't know currently. I mean, I've had this for maybe 3 years now, so I don't know if Target still sells it, but it's really great. So one end, I need to like clean the lint brush end off of it, but you can tell that I use it. One end is a lint brush, so it's just like a fabric lint brush, and the other end has, you're gonna clip your like razor blades into this side of it. So there's 3 different blades. I use the number 1 blade, and this is best for like large pills, like straight up wool. And there's two other blades, and I don't remember what you use which for, but you know, you change the blade depending on what kind of fabric. So those are what the other 2 look like. So, you know, if you have a very delicate fabric, you're going to use a different blade than, I think it's called a blade, I don't know. But you're going to use a different one than the one that I used to depill this garment that had like very big pills on it. So yeah, so I just wanted to share that with you guys. So yeah, and it just comes really easily on and off. It's such a great little tool. All right, so I'm gonna put this away. I'm done with it, so I'm actually gonna stick my blade back in this little bag. And this, actually, the Gleener would fall into my things that I have enjoyed this month or this week section, but I won't show it later because I'm showing it now. So yeah, it's really lightweight and it's inexpensive and it works really, really well. So, all right, I just wanted to show you guys a closer up of, now there's still pills all over it, you know, it's not perfect, but you know, I did a really great job. I'm gonna wash it and actually block it after this. But let me see if I can get much closer up, because there's so many beautiful colors in here. This was so fun to knit because like every stitch you got to experience a different color, and I don't remember if it's like little bits of silk, like recycled silk or something that's in here. I have no idea, but I don't think I have the label anymore, so it's been a while. But all right, so I want to block it. I knit this before I ever blocked anything, and every time I podcast about it I tell you guys I'm gonna block it, but I think that I might be able to get it just to sit, and it might have alpaca in it too. I'm not sure if it's alpaca in here or llama, but I think that it's just gonna grow a little bit more, and I wouldn't mind it just being a little bit longer. So we'll see. I'll update you guys. I think it shouldn't take that long to dry because we're in such a small place and the heat heats this apartment really, really quickly. So if it dries again before I get this podcast finished, like edited, then maybe I'll put it on and show you guys. But otherwise, I'll update you guys next week and we'll see if the fit is any different. So I don't remember the name. At the time, I think it was called Long Island Shawl, but on Ravelry, I think it's something different. It's not on, I don't know if it's on Ravelry or if you can buy the pattern directly from Tabitha on her website. I think that, so it's Long Island Yarn and Farm is the name of her business. And I don't think that she sells the patterns aside from you can request a pattern if you purchase yarn from her. So I don't think you can purchase a pattern on its own. But I mean, this is really simple. It's, as I said, it's just a really long rectangle with 2 armholes in the middle. So you can probably find something similar on Ravelry, or if you are confident, you can make it up yourself. So it's just a 2x2 rib, 1x1. It's a 1x1 rib, and it's got 2 holes. And yeah, that's it. So that's what I'm wearing today. Okay, let's move on to my really big work in progress, my monogamous knitting. So I have been monogamous this week like I've never been monogamous before. You guys, I have had a realization that the deadline for my test knit, which, you know, I knew it was sometime in February, and then like a week ago or maybe a week and a half ago, I was like, I should probably look up when exactly in February the deadline is. And it was February 1st. So I was like, oh, that's in about 2 weeks. I've got a lot of knitting to do. Oh my goodness. So I am test knitting the Good Day Sunshine sweater for Catherine Clark, and she owns Brooklyn General, and she is the designer behind the famous Ishtal sweater that graced the cover of Pom Pom magazine a few years ago. I knit her Noctuide sweater, test knitted that 2 years ago. I might reknit that one because I don't wear it because the fit is all wonky on me. Anyway, that's topic for another day. But now I am knitting the Good Day Sunshine sweater, and I finished the entire body. So here we go. I have done so much work on this sweater, and I'm gonna put it on for you guys before I guess I can show it to you first and then I'll put it on. So I'll just stand up and show you. So it's not been blocked or steam blocked or anything yet, so it looks a bit wrinkly, but my tension actually is so good for this sweater. I've been really consciously making sure not to pull my floats too tight so that it would block out really, really, really nicely. So here is a close-up of the raglan increase seaming, and on the other side too. And then last night I finished the hem, and so the back hem is longer than the front hem, and it's a split hem, which is really, really great. So it's actually split on both sides, and then also, as you can see, in the back too. So this is the back of the sweater now. It's so pretty. It's so fun. I really like having whimsical garments, and this one just seemed really whimsical to me. So I want to put it on and show it to you guys. That was another reason I wanted to wear that garment today, because I thought that this yellow top would look really nicely under this sweater. So I did a fit check last night over my pajamas just right before I went to bed, and it is so great. Ugh, it's so great. Always do the awkward like over the pajamas fit check, and things just look crazy when you put them on over pajamas. So yeah, actually this shirt right now looks really nice over it. So the neck is a mock turtleneck, and the fit is perfection. It is absolutely perfection. It hugs my neck, but it is not at all tight. It's warm and lovely. I've never made I've never knit a mock turtleneck before. I've always knit like a crew neck, or the last one I did, the Easy V, was more of a V-neck. So this is the first time I've done a mock neck, and I really, really like it. So this is going to be a great colder weather sweater because of this. I tend to get really cold a lot, but my temperature these days it's just forever changing. I think after you have a child, I always used to be freezing. And then after I had Owen, I was always hot. And now who the heck knows what I'm going to be? It just changes multiple times a day. So this is definitely a top to wear when I probably am going to be outside, not in and out of stores where like temperatures can change. But yeah, I don't know. It's great. And so yeah, that's how the hem is fitting. And so it hasn't been blocked. So I imagine, you know, it's going to be just a little bit drapey. So all I have left to do is the sleeves on this. And let's see, I have a lot of work to do very quickly. I'm going to be monogamous until this is done, because today is the 27th of January. So I feel like I have a little bit of leeway. I want to try to get it finished, like the knitting finished by February 1st, so that I have time to block it and then take some proper photos. And I have like a great place in my mind to do the photo shoot outside of my local yarn shop in Huntington, Knit and Garden. They recently had a mural painted, maybe just last summer, and it's like a blue wall with a big sun painted on it. And yeah, I just feel like I need to photograph this sweater in front of that wall. So I want to, this weekend, really try to push really hard and get the sleeves done. Today is Friday, so after I am done filming, I'm going to start the sleeve. And I've got all day tomorrow, all day Sunday, and then all day Monday. I have off on Monday before I have to go into the office on Tuesday. So I've got like a good 3.5 days now. So I want to see how far I can get with these sleeves. And then February 1st, I believe, is Wednesday. So if I can work really, really hard, I might be able to make it to February 1st. I think her plan for the release date is February 8th. So I have like a week wiggle room there, which is great, so that even if it takes me an extra day or two to get the sleeves done, I should still be able to block it and then photograph it over the weekend before the pattern is released on the 8th. So that's pretty exciting. So I just went ahead and I wound the rest of my yarn for this. I have a feeling that I'm gonna have extra, at least of the gold and the blue. If not a full skein of each, like definitely a good half skein, because I'm only, oh my gosh, it's tangled. I'm only halfway through my second skein of the gold, and I've got 2 more full skeins of the gold and 2 sleeves to go. And I can't imagine using 2.5 skeins to get the sleeves done when I've only used 1.5 to get the whole body done. So I feel like I'm gonna have a full skein of the gold remaining. And the fiber is, it's Farmer's Daughter Sokapi, and it is a Rambouillet singles. So this is the yarn for the gold. And I think the color is called Sunny. And then the blue, now I have 2. I felt like I had a little, yeah, I have a little bit more than 2. So I have 2 full skeins of the blue still, and I feel like the lighting right now is not going to allow this to really focus, so I might have to just cinch the blinds closed here. But the colorway for the blue, this is also Farmer's Daughter Fibers, so copy, and the colorway is called Union Street State of Mind, and I just ordered the kit as Catherine put them together. So I can definitely understand that she put extra yarn into the kit because this is a test knit that I'm doing. So part of my job as a test knitter is to let her know exactly how much yarn I needed for the size that I'm knitting, and I am knitting a size 6. So of course she's gonna put more yarn in there than less yarn, or like, you know, just in case she thinks that I might need to dip into an extra skein. It's to my advantage to have too much than too little, right? But she also, Testers got a discount on if we purchase the sweater quantity from her. So I feel like it's fine. If I have extra, I'll make something else with it. And then the other color that I used, and I have just a little bit left from the first 2 skeins. So this is what I have left from skeins 1 and 2 of the spin cycle, mostly these blue colors. It is called, this one's really pretty. I love the blue. See, the other skein that I used didn't have much of this blue in it. That bright blue in the middle is so beautiful, and I just want, I might have to, hold on a second. Let's see. Oh, that should be better now. So yeah, so much better. I just closed the blinds because the sun was getting kind of low because it's like almost 3. So pretty. That color, I got to it earlier on. I want to see. I only used like a very little bit of it somewhere in the boob area over here. Yeah, mostly I've got like one really strange stitch here. I don't know what happened, but I'll just like duplicate stitch over it or something. Anyway, I wanted to confirm something that Casey from the Young Folk Knits podcast. So a week ago, she put out a video about her night shift shawl with spin cycle, and she was talking about you know, things that you could substitute for spin cycle, all those things. But one of the things that she mistakenly said was that spin cycle, like this particular spin cycle, which is dyed in the wool, is, she said, it's non-superwash. And now spin cycle makes non-superwash yarn, but this is actually a superwash yarn. Anyway, not a big deal. Like, so many people corrected her, and she's like, oh, you know, like that's crazy because I've been split cycle. That's crazy to know that it's not, that it's actually superwash, because she's been spit splicing this yarn. So y'all know I had to try that, and let me tell you, she is right. You can spit splice this spin cycle yarn. I did it successfully at least 3 times so far in this sweater. And the Rambouillet yarn for the background and the sun color is not, it's non-superwash. So that wasn't a problem to spit splice at all. But I was also able to do it with this, which was just actually very exciting. So we all learned something. Casey learned that it's superwash yarn. But then we all learned that you can actually spit splice this. It works, you guys. It definitely works. So, yeah, and it says right here, 100% American wool. And then under that, it clearly says superwash. So she put out another video just yesterday saying, okay, I was wrong, and she was really cute about it. It was so funny. Anyway, the name of this one is Lunar Retreat. And it says Brooklyn General exclusive. I didn't look at that last time. So, all right, this is a really great color. If you guys want to get your hands on this particular colorway of Spin Cycle, you'll have to get it from Catherine over at Brooklyn General. So it's really, really gorgeous. So, yeah, I have to figure out with the Spin Cycle for the sleeves now how to manage my colors in such a way that the stripes line up with the body over here. So I'm gonna have to just kind of look at the colors and separate out enough for each sleeve so that my sleeves kind of sort of match the body lining up. If it's not perfect, that's okay, but I think that would look kind of nice to kind of get it like the continuous colors all the way around the sleeves too. So that is the progress that I have made on the Good Day Sunshine sweater. I will pretty much be monogamous with this knit for the next week as I finish up this test knit. So we'll see. I don't expect to be working on too many other projects. So at least until this is blocking. Okay. I have a Knitworthy segment for you guys. So let's move on into Knitworthy. So my 8-year-old son, Owen, is pretty knitworthy, and I have been using my leftover holiday magic yarn to knit him a pair of socks. So you guys have seen this really recently. I had just finished, for my first finished object of 2023. By the way, I just remembered that if you guys didn't see last episode, the last episode 66, my goal for 2023 is to knit 23 objects in 2023. And so I've already seen a bunch of you guys join in and post your first few projects in the Ravelry group. So I have a thread in the Ravelry group. So this is just a fun knit along for the year. So look up the Stop, Drop, and Knit podcast group on Ravelry, and if you would like to participate in knitting 23 objects in 2023, I would love to have you there. It doesn't have to be started in 2023. You can take whips or UFOs, and the goal is to just finish 23 things this year. So anyway, so my first finished object was my own pair of socks in this colorway, and they're dirty because I wore them the other day, but I have one sock that I just finished yesterday or the night before for Mr. Owen. And so it's one completed sock, so it is a half finished object, or a hoe as we like to say. So I used oh, where is it? I didn't have that much of it left. Here it is. So I only used it for the cuff. This is the mini that came with it. Ah! And we're always doing that. This is the mini that came with it. And this is actually got a little bit of stellina in it. The rest of the sock yarn doesn't, just this mini. And so I used that for him just for the cuffs. On my own socks, I used it also for the heels and for the toes, which is why I don't have that much left. So I'm trying to just use as much of this as I can, but I also wanted to make sure I was going to have enough for the cuffs. So I'll probably, I don't know if I'll end up with a little bit left over or not. We will see. But I just kept going. I did the same pattern for him that I always do. which is the half pint socks pattern. I cast on the larger size. There's two sizes. The smaller size you cast on 44 stitches, the larger size you cast on 52. So I used to knit on the smaller size, but his feet have just exploded. I'm such a terrible mother. Oh my goodness. One day, Owen, like last week, one day, like just the other day, one day, he's like, these shoes are hurting my feet. And we looked down, and he's had these shoes for like a good 6 or 7 months, maybe 8, size 13. His toes were practically poking holes through the shoes. I felt like, how could I not notice that my child, because he hadn't said anything and I just wasn't thinking. Oh my goodness. So not only did he grow a foot size, he grew 2 foot sizes. So he's now a size 2. And I was shoving him into size 13. I had no idea. I feel like such a terrible mom. Oh, so I now need to get him to try on all of his hand knit socks, because it might be time to have to pass some of them down to his younger cousin again, which is always kind of sad. But it's exciting that they get to live another life with my nephew. So there is that. Yeah, so I just did, it's a slip stitch heel and gusset. And I just didn't use any kind of contrasting anything. I just knit like just from here. So this should be enough to get a whole other sock for him. Yeah, I'm gonna have to have him try on all those socks, and at least I had knit him a pair of socks right around Christmas time at the end of the year, so those should fit him. But now I'm not so sure about anything else he has, so I have to be mission knit socks for my child who has bigger feet again. So that's all I've got for Knitworthy today. Oh, I forgot to mention that the yarn is Knitterly Things, and the colorway, where'd it go? I dropped the label. The colorway is called Holiday Magic, and it is from one of her sock clubs, and it's 80% superwash merino and 20% nylon. So that's what I am using for these socks. Let's move on to spinning. So I didn't get to do a lot of spinning since the last podcast, but I did enough where I finished another, well, slightly smaller, get that to focus there, slightly smaller first singles spin of the Glitz and Glam January 2022. Yeah, last time I said 21, it was January 2022, Paradise Fibers Fiber Club. So, yeah, I have been spinning this on my very heavy Louet spindle, and this is the spindle I'm using for this because the suggested spin was to knit this into a thick and thin yarn, which is pretty difficult to do. It's funny, it's making me feel like a bad spinner all over again because I'm just like purposefully having like inconsistent yarn, and it's kind of driving me nuts to not have an even spinning tension. I don't think tension is the right word, but just for it to be so thick and thin it's on the one hand it's kind of fun because you can just do whatever and not worry about it, but on the other hand it's driving me a little bit crazy and making me feel like I don't know what I'm doing anymore, even though I'm doing it intentionally because that was the suggested spin. So that's what I'm doing. The two fibers, I think this is a merino yarn. This was called their Humbug Merino. And this, some glitz and glam there. This is all that I have left. So I am going to split this in half so that I can then have 2 more balls of singles ready to ply together. And so these right now, I've got so much of this left. So look at how sparkly that is. I'm gonna be able to just create like a whole other yarn on its own, or use this to blend in with other projects. So yeah, it's so much stellina in there, crazy. And then I'll hold this a little bit closer too. So these are completely natural fibers, just blended together and super pretty. I'm gonna hold this a little bit closer so that you guys can see. So it's so thick and thin, and that's the whole point of what I'm doing, but it's just kind of crazy. So I'm actually excited to ply these together. I might actually ply these together before I spin the other singles, because I'm really curious, like, how bulky is this finished yarn gonna be? You know, what is it gonna look like? I'm just really curious about it. So this one has been sitting for like a year. This one's been sitting for like 2 days. So I think that I might just ply them together so that next time I can show you guys what it looks like. And then I'll get going on the rest of the singles and then ply the rest. My goal with this is, it's so shiny, it's so crazy. You guys see, it's so sparkly. I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but it's at least this side. Like when I look at it straight on, it's just so shiny. So yeah, I just, I think I'm gonna go ahead and ply these together and just see what they're gonna look like, and then finish spinning the rest of it. My goal is to finish spinning this yarn before February. So, or at least like soon after. I do have to totally be monogamous with my sunshine sweater. So, but I have been finding some opportunity to spin a little bit. So I think I'm gonna still try to find like 15 minutes here and there to just work on this, because I would like to get this spinning project off of my whips list as well. So that's the status of this one. And now I would like to move on to my new segment, which is going to be pretty quick this week. Also because my camera battery is dying. I need to get a second battery. Yeah, and I'm going to show you guys what I have been enjoying lately. So we have had a few very rainy days this week. And I showed this briefly, maybe it was in my last podcast, probably just at the very end. But for Christmas, I got myself a pair of clear boots. I will have the link in the description box below this video. But these are from UGG. They were kind of pricey, but I have been thoroughly enjoying wearing these. Even though I haven't had to leave the house on a rainy day too much, I've had to go to the bus stop in the rain to stand out there and wait for Owen. And so it's been really fun to put these on, and every time my feet look different because they show off my hand knit socks. So I took a few pictures that I had posted in my Instagram stories on a couple of different days. So it'll show off a couple of my socks, and my battery is flashing at me again. So I'm gonna very quickly say goodbye, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. If you're not already subscribed, I would appreciate if you could hit that subscribe button and give me a thumbs up so that other people can find my podcast here on YouTube. And I look forward to seeing you guys again next week. Bye-bye, everyone.